Good evening and welcome to Chapters After Dark for Giving Rage Chapter 4. I am your host, Angelique Starr. Thank you for sharing your time with us. As we continue our story, remember that this is a copyrighted work of fiction and is meant for mature audiences only. Any similarities to persons living or now deceased are coincidental. Remember to subscribe, like, and share. Nick called me continuously for the next couple of days. I was still a little angry with him, but each day the anger receded more. Each time he called, he apologized consistently. He promised me that he would never do it again, but he never gave me a rational reason why it had happened in the first place. He begged for me to give him another chance. He had flowers sent over to Campbell's. He urged me to have dinner with him so that we could talk. Each time I refused, it was still too soon. I wasn't thinking rationally, and Campbell wasn't making it any better by telling me how foolish I'd be if I went back to him. She asked me not to think about my life only, but that of my unborn child as well. After a couple of days had passed, Campbell and I sat down to have a sister's discussion. I decided to return home and try to work things out with Nick. I admitted to her how much I had missed Nicholas and how much I loved him, for better or worse, and that I was willing to give him another chance. Campbell did not agree with me and vowed to be a bachelorette for the remainder of her life if this was what marriage was about. She promised to always love and support me, and to be there for me. However, she also added that she did not support my decision to go back home. I could see it in my friend's eyes that she believed that I was making the second biggest mistake of my life. The first, of course, was marrying Nick. Campbell hated Nick from the first moment we encountered him at the club, the fateful evening when I first met him. When I told her that I'd run into him about a month later, she wasn't impressed. She couldn't understand why I'd agree to go out with him. Their feelings were really mutual for each other. Nick wasn't very fond of her either. Campbell was a free-spirited individual who enjoyed life to its fullest. She was very spontaneous. When we were younger, she would call me up and say, "Let's go someplace or do something at the spur of the moment." When we were in college, we would always enjoy hopping into one of our cars and driving 2 hours up to the university to see Jason, who at the time was my boyfriend. Nick disliked Campbell's spontaneity. He felt threatened by her. The two of them never got along. Nick's argument was that Campbell had no sense of stability and no respect for his presence in my life. After Nick and I were engaged, he asked me not to spend as much time with her. Campbell and I had been friends since childhood. We grew up in the same neighborhood and practically in the same house. We had attended all of the same schools since grade school. We both graduated from the same undergraduate university. I loved Campbell. She was more like a sister to me than a friend. Campbell chose to pursue a career in fashion. She was a buyer for a well-known upscale women's clothing store. I pursued a career in law. Right after college, Campbell began working for a major fashion retailer and would bring me new clothing all the time. Nick hated that too. He would always critique the clothing and judge it to be too provocative and the business suits too showy. He often prohibited me from wearing them. He felt that Campbell was trying to compete with him for my affection using expensive gifts to lure me away from him. He would try to make me feel guilty for being so accepting of Campbell's frequent and elaborate gifts. Campbell spent so much time traveling for the job that she was often not home anyway. During those times, I would keep her apartment for her and take care of her bills. Because she had no need for a car, I would drive her BMW. I explained to Nick that he and Campbell were two of the most important people in my life. I loved them equally, but from different perspectives. Reluctantly, I agreed to spend less time with Campbell for the sake of our relationship. After we married, Nick became very determined to build a wedge between Campbell and me. If she called, he would not give me her messages. She stopped visiting our home because he was very distant towards. I often found myself sneaking to call her so that we could have girl time. Many times I just sat in my car in the garage and called her. In spite of it all, Campbell remained a true friend and was always there for me. Campbell spent so much time traveling for her job she was often not home anyway. During those times I would keep her apartment for her, take care of her bills, and because she had no need for a car, I would often drive her BMW. I explained to him that he and Campbell were two of the most important people in my life. I loved them equally, but from different perspectives. Although I did so reluctantly, I agreed to spend less time with Campbell for the sake of my relationship with him. After we were married, Nick was very determined to build a wedge between Campbell and me. He would often not give me phone messages when she called. She stopped visiting our home because he was very distant when she was around. I often found myself sneaking to call her just so that we'd have uninterrupted girl time together. Sometimes I would wait until he'd left for work, or wait until I got to work and call from there. Many times I just sat in my car in the garage and called her. In spite of it all, Campbell remained a true friend and was always there for me when I needed her. After meeting Nick, I couldn't stop thinking about him. Campbell and I had gone out to celebrate graduating. We went to the Pavilion Club. Campbell and I were quickly met with looks of wanting. A couple of guys came up and bought us drinks. As the evening wound down, the gentleman escorted us to our car. We were startled by a car traveling recklessly into the parking lot where we stood. The car lurched to a stop, and two men jumped out. One of the guys, who turned out to be Nick, hurried towards Mark and me. Nick slammed him against my car. I knew he was hurt, but I was too scared to say anything. Mark was handcuffed and placed in the back of the vehicle. I was frozen by fear. Campbell was mouthing off at the cops. Nick turned to her and said, "Just shut up before I handcuff you and take you down too." From that moment forward, she never had a kind word to say about Nick. I thought about that evening over and over. He was the man of my dreams. I couldn't get him out of my mind. I prayed that I would see him again. A month later, I did. I was at the mall shopping and ran into him at the food court. With determination in my gait, I walked over to him and asked him whether he remembered me. He looked over at me, gave me a cursory glance from head to toe, then replied, "No." I felt awkward. His response had come so quickly that I was thrown off guard. I didn't know how to respond. I just knew that there was no way I was going to let him walk away from me after he'd crept into my thoughts and dreams. He walked over to a table and took a seat. I followed him. He looked up at me again, and with obvious interest responded, "So tell me, beautiful lady, where should I know you from?" I invited myself to sit down. He was showing interest. I began to refresh his memory by recanting the events of that night. He studied my face for a moment, then responded, "Oh, yeah, I remember that night, but I'm sorry. I apologize because I don't remember you." I reminded him about Campbell and how she yelled at him. He let out a huge laugh from deep inside his chiseled abdomen. "It's coming back to me." He spooned a spoonful of yogurt into his mouth. "Forgive my rudeness. Would you like some?" He held out a spoonful of yogurt in my direction. He licked his lips. A chill went up and down my spine. I rolled my eyes around in my head. Not in response to the offer, but in my desperation to help him to remember me. "I don't mean from mine. Can I get you some?" He pointed to his container. "No, but thanks," I responded. "So, I was working then, which means that those were really bad dudes. Is that what you like?" he said coyly. He looked away, swirling his yogurt, and at me. A sensuous look appeared on his face. I smiled shyly. Whatever he was doing to me was working. "No, not at all. My friend and I were just partying that night. We didn't know those guys." "Oh, I see. You just let people you don't know hang out with you, sort of like right now." He smiled. No, I stuttered. Nick laughed at me. "Don't worry, I know how it goes. I remember that night. I remember how scared you were and your friend, the one with the big mouth." "How is she?" "She's fine." "So you remember that night?" "Yeah, it's coming back to me. So I guess those chumps were trying to pick you and your friend up. What were you celebrating that night? Graduation? Really?" "Whose?" he asked inquisitively. "Mine and hers. That's pretty interesting. You and your girl were both graduating?" "Yes. She's my best friend, and we went to school together, and we were both graduating." "That sounds cool. What did you study?" "Political science." "I want to be a lawyer." "Well, I hope all your wishes and dreams come true, baby. When you become a lawyer, maybe we'll see each other again." "We don't have to wait until then," I responded confidently. "What's your name?" "Allison." "Allison, I'm Nick, and it's a pleasure to meet you." He extended his hand. "I'd like to get to know you better, Miss Allison."
Do you think I could have your phone number?
Nick pulled out his cell phone, confident that I was going to say yes. I did. He asked me out. I graciously accepted. I anxiously awaited our date. I don't know why he was having that effect on me. He was very handsome, all 6 feet 4 inches of him. His muscular physique was alluring. He filled out every inch of those jeans. I was mesmerized. He was articulate, well-spoken, and charming. I hadn't dated anyone since my breakup with Jason and thought to myself, it's time to live again. Jason and I were high school sweethearts. We had been together since junior high school. We grew up in the same neighborhood and attended the same schools throughout our childhood. He, Campbell's, and my families were best friends. Our relationship continued through college even though we attended different schools. Jason had received a full athletic scholarship to college for playing basketball. He was studying pre-med and had planned to practice sports medicine. Basketball was just a means to an end. We became unofficially engaged. Jason was very popular in both high school and college. In the beginning, I was very secure in our relationship. I had my own plans and goals for my life. There was a lot of temptation for him. I was sure that our being at different schools and so far apart didn't help matters much, but I trusted Jason, and he could trust me equally. Whenever I had the opportunity to visit his campus, Jason always introduced me as his fiancé and never gave me a reason to feel threatened or jealous until the night of the rally. If there were special events going on at his school, Campbell and I were there. We'd drive up to his school whenever we could. While home for the holidays, we were always together, spending time with our respective families and each other. Jason was always in an article in the local paper highlighting his accomplishments and his imminent pro career. He had been courted with the opportunity to leave college and play professionally. He declared himself eligible for the draft in his junior year. The day Jason and I officially broke up, Campbell and I had been invited to a celebration after a championship win. Campbell and I drove to his campus for the celebration. The team hadn't arrived, but there were plenty of people there celebrating in anticipation of their arrival. Campbell and I were growing tired and had even contemplated leaving when we noticed the momentum of the crowd begin to change. The players had begun trickling in sporadically. The mood became more festive. My man was the star. He'd played so well all year, and he deserved the accolades and attention he was getting. When Jason entered the building, the crowd began chanting. The players received a standing ovation as they marched across the stage.